Right, so hello and welcome back to Books and Things and welcome to another video, and today I'm going to be doing the library tag. So this tag was created by BookBuds and I was tagged by Hannah's Books. I'll leave their videos and channels down below. And this tag is all about visiting libraries. There are in fact two sets of questions. Questions for people who do go to the library and questions for people who don't go to the library. So I am, of course, answering the questions for people who do go to the library because I love going to the library. Question one is, how often do you go to the library? I feel like I must go to the library at least once a month. I feel like some months I go more than once a month, or sometimes of year I probably go much more often than other times of year, but in general I feel like I go physically to the library probably about once a month. In general, when I go to the library, I don't tend to be browsing. I tend to reserve books and go and collect them. Occasionally I do browse and pick something up, but in general I tend to reserve and collect, partly because the way the library system works in London is it's all done on like a borough basis. So your local library will probably be part of a larger borough library that includes lots of other different libraries and reserve stock. So if you go to the library and browse, you're only seeing like a tiny percentage of what the library actually has to offer. Question two is, do you belong to more than one library system? So as I just said, in London, libraries are organised on like borough lines. So I'm a member of my like local London Borough Library. So that's like one library system, but I could go and get books out from any library in the borough, and I can get books reserved from other libraries in the borough. And then I also have a reader's pass for the British Library, which is a big kind of library and archive in London. And the British Library is a bit different because you can't take books out, you can't take books away with you, you can't even take them out of the room that you have come to collect them at, but you can reserve or order books, and they have an absolutely massive collection, including a lot of old books and rare books and out of print books, and you can go and read them in the room where you have reserved them to and then give them back when you leave. But I have a reader's pass for the British Library too, and I go there every now and then as well. Question three is, what percentage of books you read come from the library? So I had a look back over my reading for the last 18 months, because I do track when I'm reading, whether it's a book I own physically or a library book or an ebook or an audiobook. And 10% of the physical books I've read over the last 18 months were from the library, but 20% of the audiobooks I've read over the last 18 months were from the library. So it's not the biggest percentage ever, but it is definitely a significant chunk of my reading, I guess. That also wouldn't count any books that I read at the British Library for historical research, because I don't tend to track them in the same way. But I definitely have read some books or some bits of books at the British Library for historical research in the last 18 months as well. Question four is, do you listen to audiobooks or get ebooks from your library, or are you hooked on Audible, Amazon, or something else? So I use a lot of different apps for listening to audiobooks. I do use Audible. I also occasionally use Apple Books. Basically, that's not my main thing, but if an audiobook's on sale on Apple Books, then I will sometimes get it there. And I also use the app Libby to borrow audiobooks from my library. As I just said, 20% of the audiobooks I listen to are from the library, and actually that's over the last 18 months, and over the last 18 months I have been doing the Mega Dickens read along and reading a lot of Dickens books on audiobook, all of which I've been listening to on Audible because they're included in Audible membership. So I feel like in a period of 18 months when I wasn't doing the Mega Dickens read along, probably a greater percentage of the audiobooks I listen to would be from the library. I think Libby is a really good app. It definitely works better and has a better system than Overdrive, which I have previously used with libraries. I like Libby a lot, and my library system has lots of audiobooks and a pretty decent audiobook catalogue. It's a bit random, sometimes there'll be a really famous book that they won't have an audiobook of, and sometimes there'll be a really obscure book that they do have an audiobook of, but I do manage to find quite a lot of stuff I want to read on audiobook through my library, so that's really nice. I almost never get ebooks out the library though, because the e-reader I have is a Kindle, and the ebooks you can get through my library are not supported on Kindle. In general, I don't read a ton of ebooks anyway, and the majority of books I read on ebook tend to be out of print Victorian books, which are free on ebook anyway. I do very occasionally get an ebook out of the library and read it on my computer, but I can only think of 2 or 3 occasions when I've done that. It's not the norm to me because it's not a wonderful reading experience to read a book on your computer. Question 5 is, did you go to story time at the library as a kid? Not that I remember. Maybe I did when I was quite little, but I don't remember ever going to story time or anything like that at the library when I was young. I do remember going to the library as a kid. I'd always enjoying going to the library, and I remember getting books out of the library. Definitely as a teenager, I used to use the local library quite a lot, and also the school library a lot. I used to get a lot of books out of my school library. I remember when I was in like year 7, so when I was like 11, 12, I went through a phase where I would just get a different Jacqueline Wilson book out the school library every week, and I would just read like one a week and hand it back and get the next one because she'd written so many books. I feel like I probably used the school library more than the local library when I was a kid. Question 6 is, have you ever borrowed a movie or a game from your library? Not that I remember. I feel like maybe we did used to borrow videos from the library when I was a kid, but I don't remember that super well. I have also got audiobooks on CD out of the library before, not for a while, but I have definitely done that in the past. Question 7 is, have you ever got fined for returning books late? And if so, how did you feel about that? No, I have never got fined for returning books late. I never return books late. It would make me far too stressed to return a book late. Saying that, I feel like a lot of the books I get out of the library are like not super popular books. So I just tend to like renew them and renew them and renew them, and if no one else has put a hold on them, like sometimes I've had a book out of the library for like 3 months but I just keep renewing it and no one else wants it, so it's fine. For some reason my library system has like a lot of Anthony Trollope books, including like a lot of really obscure Anthony Trollope books that are like mostly now out of print, and they have like all these old editions from the 80s. I don't know why, but I have definitely had some Anthony Trollope books out of the library for like 3 or 4 months because no one else wants them but me. I feel like one time when I got an Anthony Trollope book out of the library, the librarian said to me that no one had got it out for like over a decade. Question 8 is, do you attend special events, groups or book sales at the library? No, not really. I haven't been to many events at libraries, I would say. I feel like book sales at libraries is maybe more of a thing in the US. I feel like that happens less in the UK. I am actually hoping to do a few events at libraries as an author later this year when my second novel, The Trouble with Mrs. Montgomery Hearst, comes out. So that would be really fun. Question 9 is, have you ever given or taken a book from a little free library, a book box or a book swap? So yes, I have sometimes taken or given books from that kind of thing. I would probably say I have given more books than I have taken from those kind of things. I don't think I've ever taken or given a book in one of those like little free libraries that people like put up at the end of their garden or like make in phone boxes, though I've seen some of them around. But in London, quite a few stations have little free libraries or book swap shelves, which is quite nice. So I've taken and given books from those. And during lockdown, during the pandemic, the block of flats I lived in had like a book swap box, which was so nice because all the libraries were shut, and I was feeling the lack of the library, and so it was really nice that someone in the block of flats like just set up a book swap box by the lift, and you could go and like collect a book or leave a book. So I used that a few times as well. I think little free libraries are a really lovely idea. And then question 10 is, does your librarian know you by name? No, my librarian does not know me by name. I feel like if you live in a large city, then no one knows your name anywhere. Maybe that's just me and I don't go in enough. Maybe if I went every week to the library rather than every month, they would know my name. There are definitely librarians that I recognise because they're often on shift when I'm there, or that I've seen a few times before, but I don't think any of them know me by name. I do, however, want to take this opportunity to tell the story of how after lockdown, when the library was open again for the first time, I went to the library and I got out like 12 books because, you know, I'd missed the libraries, and the librarian was like, oh, are you studying for a project? And I had to be like, no, I just really missed the libraries and I just wanted to get lots of books out. And she obviously just thought that no one but a student would be taking out like 12 fairly old looking classics. But I really enjoyed them all, so there we go. And then the final thing to do is to tag some people. So I'm going to tag Marissa from Blatantly Bookish, Brian from Bookish, Jennifer Loves Books. Also, I just realised I've been sitting with the books I currently have out from the library on my lap because I was thinking I would talk about them and then I didn't. But these are the 4 books I currently have out from the library. I'm currently reading Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin. I also read earlier in the month Rose Tremaine's Absolutely and Forever and Music in the Dark by Sally Magnuson. And I'm hoping in June to read The Fraud by Zadie Smith. So those are the 4 books I currently have out from the library. I find the library especially good for books that I want to read, but I'm not like 100% certain whether or not I'm going to love them. And I also find it really, really great for if I'm like doing a specific reading project or readathon. So I often get books out of the library for Jane Austen July or Victober. I always find myself getting a lot of books out of the library for when I'm reading along with the Walter Scott Prize for historical fiction. You know, 3 of those books were on the Walter Scott Prize long list. And whenever I'm like reading for a specific project like that, I often get a lot of books out of the library rather than like buying lots of new books. In general, if I want to read a book that I don't already own, I will always check if my library has it first before buying it. And if I buy it, that's usually because the library didn't have it or because I like have a book token or something. Anyway, I feel like I've been rambling on for quite long enough, so that's all for now. Do let me know down in the comments, do you use the library? What kind of stuff do you get out of the library? That's all for now. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll be back very soon with another bookish video.